Hey, Newsa-Cast listeners. Just want to give you a little information about the mission of the Newsa-Cast. Our mission stems from the mission of the Red Smith Banquet, and that mission was to support youth sports in the Fox Valley. Over the 57 years of its existence, we've been honored to give out over $1 million to various youth sports organizations throughout the Fox Valley. The Newsa-Cast is looking to continue that mission and support youth sports as well. You can help us do that by donating to the Newsa-Cast and the Red Smith Sports Banquet.
On today's Newsa-Cast, we sit down with longtime Appleton East head football coach Pat Schwanke. Tosh and I take an old look at new, which is presented by Raleigh Winter. Our throwback this week takes us to a legendary NFL coach, Bill Walsh. And we end the show like we always do with a little It's Forgotten and I'm Never Forgetting. So what do you say? Why don't you sit back and let's get this show on the road.
Those are the things that are more important than a paycheck or a win on a Friday, because that's really what life's all about. I'm waxing poetic here.
Welcome to the Newsa-Cast. What is a Newsa-Cast? It's where we bring local folk stories to life through conversation.
All right, Newsa-Cast listeners, welcome to another episode of the Newsa-Cast. We're having a blast and continue to have a blast. We hope you're enjoying this Newsa-Cast as much as we are. We have another excellent episode. We're going to talk to a longtime football coach at Appleton East, Pat Schwanke, also a teacher, and just, talk about life lessons.
Another great episode, Tosh. Yeah, we're doing the thing, Tosh. We're podcasters indeed. And we found another good interview with Pat. And you're right, life lessons and a lot of the same questions that we've started to ask some of our guests. We're getting different perspectives, and it was well worth a listen. I loved it.
Yeah, and just like we had Dan Scherenbrock on. Pat was a colleague of mine, and one of those teachers and people that I truly look up to, not only from the way he taught, but also just as a person. So it was good to catch up with Pat as well, and really enjoyed it.
And your dogs did too, Tosh. They got to ask a question or two. But no, you're absolutely right. And we've said this before with the Newsa-Cast. It's exactly what we're looking for. There's incredible people that live in our community, that teach in our schools, that coach our kids, that whatever. And you got to kind of hear another example of that, of just their philosophy of why they teach kids, how they teach kids, what they're trying to teach kids, and just be mentors. So it's well worth a listen. It's refreshing to hear. It's not clickbait. It's just good old conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So Joe, what do you have? What was your weekend?
Good, Tosh. I mean, you got to be good with the weather, but an exciting week. My daughter Amelia's in a production at Appleton North, Anastasia, and it's I went to see that a couple of nights ago. Fantastic as usual. We talked to a lot of athletes, but I tell you what, the kids that are on the stage blow my mind every single night I go see their performance. They are so good, just fearless, just so good at their craft. It really is just worth going to see a high school show. I'm a little biased towards North, but all the high schools have great productions, and these kids put in so much time, every bit as much time as any athlete that we've ever talked to. They do that so they can take the stage and just not have a care in the world and just become that character.
And you got a great director out at Appleton North, and Ron Parker as well. Fantastic. He does a great job of preparing those kids, and he always puts on a good show.
No, he absolutely does. He's an amazing guy. And in fact, that's I think the term is white whale, right? That's a white whale that we want to get for the show. I'm going to try to track him down and maybe talk to him for the Newsa-Cast. But yeah, Tosh, that was my weekend. I enjoyed I enjoyed going to Anastasia, but how about you? What'd you have going?
We really didn't have a lot. This is the start of my wife's birthday week.
Huge.
So,
happy birthday, Melissa.
It's a huge week. We always, I have to give her a shout out. She always said that with all boys, including the dogs in the house, that she deserves a birthday week. And we make sure that she has a little something every single day of her birthday week. But we've been kind of hanging out and doing stuff. But we went down to Tandem for a drink. I mean, once it's getting nicer here, love George, love Tandem. Get a glass of wine, get a glass of beer. It's a cool little funky place.
Yeah.
It's very eclectic. George is a great person to have conversation with at Tandem as well. So absolutely love that place, just hanging out. And as it gets nicer and nicer, he has a great chairs and patio set up when you can just sit out there and sit down in the flats and enjoy a drink.
That's a really cool little stretch, isn't it? I mean, you have the Stone Arch, just literally a stone's throw away. You have Riverside right across the street. He has great food, great music. Yep. Tandem, Pullman's. I mean, that's such a great spot to go. It's Tosh, we're finding hidden gems. That's one as well. And what the heck, you can take a trail to Poplar Hall and to Woodfire Pizza. There's the flats, man. It's alive. There's another great coffee place. You in the 800 Law Street. I'm blanking on the name. Coffee Wizard, right there on the bottom of the hill, right by the bridge. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That's very, very good coffee as well. So.
Yeah, so we just spent some time hanging out and, got to catch up on some of the state tournament action that was taking place. And unfortunately, we had a lot of teams make it to the final day and played some really close battles and games, but didn't quite get the gold ball and settled with the silver ball.
Yeah, it was tough, Tosh. There was a lot of great. I mean, it's tough, right? You make it to the final day. I mean, all of these games, nobody got blown out. Every game literally came down to the last couple of minutes. And in fact, Xavier, Nina, they had leads at some points in the games as well. Yeah. Just couldn't quite pull it out, but those girls competed hard. The boys too, the FEL boys and the Xavier boys, they lost in the sectional semis. So unfortunately, the basketball season has come to an end, but Tosh, that can mean only one thing, right? Our favorite season started.
Spring sports.
You got it. And lacrosse is a spring sport, and that we kick off the first WIAA season. Tosh, lacrosse is when this episode comes out. Right. It'll be lacrosse season
in the first week of practice.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I know Big E's getting ready to play. Appleton United is ready to play, and the Bay Valley and all the state teams. It's going to be another great season of lacrosse.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I mean, it's WIA. It's officially sponsored now, so there's a lot of excitement with that, and a lot of new opportunities and challenges at the same time. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes and see what changes need to be made and what things to keep at the end of the season. So it's a quick season. Spring sports seems to be quick, and you can never. I mean, we've had great weather. Let's hope that this spring has great weather for these kids playing in all the spring sports at the high school level.
Yeah, that would be a shame after the winter we had, and then to have a bad spring. That would just be bad luck. But you're absolutely right, though, when you say that about how quick the season goes. I remember that this is my first season not having lacrosse in the spring. I usually would be knee deep in lacrosse rules, and kind of glad those aren't running through my head anymore. But I do remember the build up, and all of a sudden you take that first face off, and before you know it, the season's over. And it's just, I don't know how it goes so fast, but boy, once they start playing, it's look out, go play. And I saw all the schedules were released a couple of weeks ago on all the social medias, all the teams had them out. So it's going to be fun. Appleton plays at Appleton East on that field. So there's, it's always some battles. That's for sure. I'm going to definitely check out a game or two.
Absolutely. It is. It'll be fun. And we have lots of other sports, baseball, softball will be starting, track, soccer. So, tennis as well. Lots of spring sports going on, and it'll check, you see lights on somewhere, go check out and see what's happening. Just like we said with basketball and football.
That's right.
The spring sports have some amazing athletes and amazing teams as well. So make sure you check them out.
That's right. And just like you're checking out those sports, make sure you check out the like button, the subscribe button. Make sure you tell a friend, tell a colleague, tell anybody about the Newsa-Cast, right, Tosh? Check out the Newsa-Cast YouTube page. We got good old throwbacks to the Red Smith Banquet. We've got the Newsa Minute. Look out for that. We got it all, Tosh. We're just a content making machine these days.
Absolutely. Yeah, we appreciate everything that you can do for us to help us spread the word.
It's that time again, once again, for an old look at new, brought to you by Raleigh Winter and Associates, celebrating 55 years. Did you know that in 1962, an Appleton junior high school teacher with a strong work ethic started a residential realty company? His name, Raleigh Winter. 3 generations later, the Winters still hold true to a strong work ethic and an excellent reputation in the community. Today, Raleigh Winter and Associates remain actively involved in providing retail, office, and industrial users an affordable, well-designed working environment through the creation and/or acquisition of quality real estate in the Fox cities and even beyond new. So what do you say? Let's take an old look at new.
Hey, Newsa-Cast listeners, welcome to another one of the Old Look at News, where we take a look at sports or history here in Wisconsin. Try to make it Northeast Wisconsin. We do the best we can, and just kind of take a little look at history. So, Joe, what do you got this week?
Well, Tosh, I stumbled across a theme. Thank you to the Appleton Historical Society's Facebook page and ultimately the Appleton Library for pumping out this information that I'm actually borrowing and using it as content for our Old Look at New. But it's the street names. Last week we did the Elvin Foster. We found out that was named after a dude named Elvin Foster. Well, I stumbled across another one, Tosh. Fellow's name is Walter Loomis Newberry. So we know Newberry Street. We know Walter Avenue. Yeah.
Right.
So Walter Loomis Newberry, interesting fella. I tell you that. Early on in 1837, before Appleton was even Appleton, this guy was a Chicago resident. He was a land speculator, and he actually owned. It said he owned all the land in the lower old Fourth Ward, wherever that is, but that sounds like a lot of land. He owned that, so did pretty well for himself. He did that same thing up in Green Bay and basically all up and down the Fox River. But yeah, quite the guy. They're not sure if he actually ever set foot in actually Appleton or not, but he certainly has 2 streets named after him. So Mr. Walter Loomis Newberry, first land speculator. So yeah, he did well for himself.
Before we know it, Joel will have every street and the history of everyone before this podcast is over. So
Tosh, somehow I've stumbled on other people to do my my research for me. So I much appreciate all of that. So, hey, if they want to do that, I'm more than happy to read it. But
nice.
Tosh, how about you? What are we taking a look at?
Well, we're going to go back to March 14th, 1979. And in 1979, the Milwaukee Bucks, they set the team single scoring record for games in regulation, where they scored 158 points all the way back in 1979.
Wow.
And it still holds today. That is still the highest score that has been. Well, I shouldn't say that. I didn't have numbers from this year. And this year there's some pretty high scoring games in the beginning. But it held up until this year for sure. 1978, 158 points in regulation.
So we're going to have to ask our good friend Steve, who listens to every podcast. When did they put the 3-point line in? Because they might not have had that in 78. And that would be incredible to score 158 with no 3-point line. Yeah,
that's a good question. We don't have a lot of basketball players in my family. Height is not a huge gene component.
You and me
look
either.
Back. I'm hockey and, baseball, lacrosse, football. So I don't know about that. That's a good question, though. Yeah, that would be pretty incredible, though, if there was not a 3-point line at that point and they scored that much.
That would
so incredible.
It'd be close.
It's still 150.8 points in regulation. That is still an incredible feat.
Absolutely. Popping the J. 100%. Yeah. Well, Steve will fill us in and I'll report back to the crew and let everybody know for sure. But I love those stats, Tosh. And those are some great teams playing in the old Mecca down in Milwaukee. I remember those games.
Absolutely.
Some great games. A lot of great basketball. That's, I don't know. This is old guy yelling at the clouds, but back then that's when the NBA was the NBA. I loved it.
Right. A little bit more maybe defense being played at that point. I don't know. Yeah. We'll have to see. All right,
Tosh. Well, that was our old look at new. Hope you folks enjoyed it.
Hi, everyone. This is Taylor, editor and podcast producer for the Newsa-Cast. Before we get into this fantastic and inspiring interview with Pat Schwanke, I wanted to give you a word of warning. Pat currently works with an agency called Sources of Strength, an entity focused on suicide prevention. He does talk about his role there, and topics of suicide will be heard. If you are sensitive to the topic, or could be triggered by its discussion, please skip this part. This section is from 54 minutes and 38 seconds to 55 minutes and 33 seconds. Please use caution when deciding when to listen, and take care.
Hey, Newsa-Cast listeners, welcome to another interview, and we're super honored to have Pat Schwanke. For those of you who don't know Pat Schwanke, first of all, I just want to say it's a complete honor. When I started at East, we had Dan Scherenbrock on a few weeks ago, and Dan and Pat were two of the teachers that I actually looked up to. They're just professional. They're incredible teachers. And you're going to hear a little bit about that with Pat. But more importantly, we're going to hear his background playing football. If you didn't know, he was an All-American at Lawrence. And probably one of the most important things is he was a football coach at the high school level for 33 years. So we're going to hear all about that. And Pat, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to this. I'm not real good at talking about myself, so it could be really short.
We'll drag it out of you.
That's right. We're good at that. So I remember you playing at Lawrence back in the early 80s. So you would have been playing with Scott Reppert, that whole team. I mean, you guys had really good teams back then in the 80s at Lawrence, didn't you?
Yeah, well, late 70s, early 80s, we lost 5 games in the 4 years Scott and I were there. So we were the same class, Scott and I.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, 5 games in 4 years.
So I remember, so correct me if I'm wrong, you played at the Bonta Bowl. I remember there being pretty good crowds, really good coverage. I felt like it was like an event on Saturdays to go to a Lawrence football game.
It was. And an interesting sidelight is that NBC actually broadcast Division III football games when we were juniors and seniors. So NBC had a Saturday afternoon broadcast of us against Cornell, first game of the year in the Bonta Bowl. It was nuts. Oh. Just the preparation for it was nuts.
And was it Ron Roberts? Was he the coach?
Ron was the coach. Yep, great guy.
Yeah, the field's named after him, obviously, as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's always blowing me away. Why were you guys so good? How come that crew was so good for those few years and now? I mean, Lawrence has the greatest facilities in the world, I feel like, for D3, but yet they just can't. They're just not competitive. It seems like at D3 at times.
Yeah, I think they lost a little focus, and I think they've struggled to find leadership in some of the coaching positions. The one thing Ron was a great leader. And if you roll back the clock to those days, we had 4 coaches. Not like today where you have a high school that's got, the right guard coach and the left guard coach.
Right.
We had 4 coaches, 2 guys on offense, 2 guys in defense. And Ron just recruited the Dickens out of the Fox Valley in Chicago. And that was the core of our team.
Sure. Whatever happened to Scott Reppert? I was always curious. He, after school, did he play anywhere else or did he just go on with a career?
Yeah, he played. I think he played with the Bears. He was in the Bears camp.
Okay.
I know he's been inducted into the National Football Hall of Fame. So it's funny how you have those connections for 4 years and then you lose touch with all of those guys.
Sure. Do you ever come back for alumni game? Anybody from the old teams ever get back together?
I didn't, to be honest with you. I'm so frustrated with that university in that they have no kids from Wisconsin playing on the football team. I didn't even go to a game last year.
Sure.
So,
wow.
It's hard to make those connections.
Right. No, I get that for sure.
Yeah.
Well, so I want to go back even further. You grew up in Menasha, and so tell us a little bit about, we have a common theme when we talk to people is back in those days, you grew up and you played several different sports. So what else did you play besides football?
I was a football and baseball player.
Okay.
That was it. I had surgery on a finger, so I stopped playing basketball. And football really was my passion. So that's why it ended up the way it was. And it's funny, if you roll back the clock, Ron had the Fox Valley football camp at Lawrence, and that's where most of us made connections. Not only to the coaches from all the Valley, because all the high school coaches from the Valley coached at his camp, but with Ron. And that's where Scott and I met. Scott Reppert and I met and became fairly close friends for our 4 years while we were there.
Sure.
And had great careers.
So you guys were in high school and you would go to that camp before college? Yep. Okay.
He'd have 120, 150 kids at his high school camp. And that was his recruiting tool. He'd get us on campus and gave us these lame free tickets to get into the game. You didn't charge anyway, but you thought you got something when he gave you something and said it was free.
Sure. Seems so simple, yet it seems like that would work in this day and age as well, something like that.
Yeah, I'd sure like to see Lawrence come back. I don't know how they're going to do that.
Yeah.
Well, Tosh, you've coached there too, right? So you know.
Yeah, I know exactly. They did lose their way for quite a long time.
Yes.
I think they're starting to come back. There's a little bit of excitement coming through. But, you bring up a good point. We got to get these kids from the Fox Valley and kids from Wisconsin to come here. I mean, we've got great players and we got smart kids, and that's the blueprint for Lawrence right there.
That certainly was the blueprint in the 80s when we were there and had great success. You think about it, we were the first team from the state of Wisconsin to make the NCAA Division III playoffs. I mean, it was before Whitewater and Eau Claire and Oshkosh. It was Lawrence, believe it or not.
A little trivia. So when you were playing, you shortly after your playing career at Lawrence, you went on and became a teacher, and then obviously we'll talk about being a high school football coach. But at that time, when you were playing college football, was that what you knew you wanted to do? It was be a teacher, be a football coach. That football was going to be a part of your life the rest of your life.
It started, I think, when I was in third grade, played tackle football out in Westfield, New Jersey. And from then on, it was just what we lived for at our house. My brother and I, we just loved the game. So, I knew it was coming. And I knew what I wanted to do, both the teaching and the coaching.
Sure. No, and that's great to know. So then you're learning from Ron Roberts, just the technical aspect of the game, just how to be a coach, how to be a leader of football players.
Yep, certainly. As well as like his camp, because, all the high school coaches in the Valley were at that camp. And by the end of the camp, they knew you and you knew them. Right. I learned from Chuck Ross and Paul Lingen and Bill Boney and Bill Biekala, all these great high school football coaches from the Valley that were just great mentors for young guys and kids.
So you mentioned Chuck Ross. That's who you succeeded Chuck in at Appleton East.
Correct. Yep.
I was trying to figure that out. So how many years was Chuck Ross a head coach at East?
I think he was there about 20.
And you were there for another 27.
Correct.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't see that in this day and age.
No. It's very different. In 27, as you reflect back on it, 27 is a long time.
It really is.
It's a long time.
It's a long time.
I mean, your coaching staff, when you started, you couldn't have had more than three coaches, right, on your staff. Well, how big was your staff early on?
Well, we had me and 5 other assistants.
Oh,
Those were
okay.
the coaches. And then we would recruit others to volunteer and help us out.
Got it. Okay.
So it was me and 5 others.
Wow.
I feel like Tosh and I graduated from West back in '88, and I felt like it was we were talking about this. It was Paul Engen, it was Gruber and Suko. Those 3 were basically the varsity coaches. The JV guys would come up on Friday nights to help, but you had 3 varsity coaches.
Hey, that was my first stint at coaching high school was with Paul. I was with Paul and that staff for 1 year.
Yes.
Coaching the JVs.
What year would that have been?
That would have been, let's see, 84.
Okay.
84. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some good
84.
teams back then. I can remember like Andy Hare was a couple of years before that, but boy, there's some good teams back in those early to mid 80s.
Oh yeah, East and West both had good teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
It's just amazing that how high school football has changed from then. I mean, it was all predominantly run back then, maybe a little bit of pass, but no film, or very crude film, maybe some pictures. I mean, you sent a guy to go scout, the Friday night, that's what you were working off of. And now to have huddle and to just how the game is innovated over your time. I mean, that has to just be mind blowing. I mean, how do you even keep up on it? And 2, it's just what you've seen change in football is something else.
Yeah. That's one of those interesting things that I've talked with others about is the fact that when we started, it was a game for the kids, and you knew what the opponent was going to do because you had someone go watch them, to today where I think it's evolved a little bit to be more about the coaches and their preparation and a little bit less about the kids. At least that's my perspective. Mm-hmm. My role as a head coach when I was younger was let's get the kids ready to play on Friday and manage their time was what I did when I got older in the coaching ranks, because there are so many demands placed on these kids. You lose them as 3-sport athletes. So I had to manage their time and be the guy that said, hey, go on family vacation. Yeah, I get it. Go play basketball next week, but let's see a passing league the following week. So it became more of a management position at the end compared to a coaching position, I think, at the beginning. And I think that's high school sports today.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's changed so much. I don't know if it's changed for the better or not. And I'm sure your job has only gotten tougher from start to finish. You might even miss the days of just pure coaching, I would assume.
I tell people when I talk about my coaching career that what I miss is practice. I don't miss the games.
Sure.
That is the honest to God truth, because that's when you're connecting with the kids. And that was what I wanted to do. Winning wasn't that big a deal.
Right.
I know most people don't think that,
right.
But for me, if you have better athletes and they perform when you ask them to and get the job done, you're going to be successful. But it wasn't my first priority, at least, the last 20 years it wasn't. Maybe the first 7 as a young guy, I thought that, but the last 20 it wasn't.
Right.
You bring up one of the things that I've noticed so much over the last, 24, 25 years is we are losing the multi-sport athlete. Even at the football level, now the kids aren't playing basketball or they're not playing whatever sport. They're sitting in the weight room or doing this instead of getting that experience of playing with other kids in different sports that might not be their specialty.
Yeah, and that's one of those frustrating things. And I think it's coaches in many cases that don't want to share.
Right.
I think John Milkey and I had a really good relationship in that we shared our kids, and he understood I needed them, and he understood, and I understood he needed them. And that was really the draw, because there were really no other sports other than football, basketball that had high levels of kids wanting to compete. So
yeah, and even when, and maybe you saw this when you played at Lawrence, when I coached at Lawrence, our baseball players were also football players.
Mm-hmm.
And there were only a couple kids who were single sport athletes in high school, and they played 2 sports in college as well.
Exactly. The baseball coach, when I played, was the defensive coordinator at Lawrence for the football team.
Yeah.
And we had all that success. Well, there's got to be some magic to that we've lost.
Right.
At Lawrence, the high school is a whole different ballgame.
It's true.
Do you ever think about, what has changed? Why do kids, why do kids just focus on one sport? Is it just purely going after that scholarship? Is it a parent driven thing? I mean, what changed?
Well, I would hit on, I don't know if you guys, ESPN had Roy Williams and Mike Krzyzewski on talking about high school coaches. I don't know if you guys saw it.
I missed that.
At the end, they were talking to high school basketball coaches, said, remember your job is you're a teacher and you're a coach and you want to build great human beings. And that's what both of them said. He said, and that was our job too. He said, everybody else is focused on winning. And I think that's really led to the evolution of the way we are today. There's such a focus on winning and not experiential learning that I think kids suffer and get burnt out.
Yeah. It's refreshing. I mean, so Tosh and I have heard that same type of message in a lot of the interviews we've done for the Newsa-Cast, and it's always really refreshing to hear that, to hear the Olympic athletes say, yeah, we played multiple sports, you should play multiple sports, or to have coaches like you talk about Tosh, I don't think there's been one coach that's ever said anything about winning. It's always been about developing players, making a great human being, basically being a mentor. And to us, it's we love hearing that. That's exactly why we do the Newsa-Cast, is to get those kind of messages out, because that's, and in our opinion, that's the way it should be.
Agreed, 100%. And I'm glad to hear that you've interviewed other coaches who have that same mindset.
Yeah, and Caviati from baseball side, Ryan Borowitz from the basketball side. Both of them, I talk about, you need to go out and experience other sports. You need to do other things. And, and that's, Pat, I'm going to say that, I'm going to pump you up a little bit here. That's one of the best things about you, is that when I saw you coach, when I saw you teach, it was not about teaching your subject. It was not about coaching a sport. It was about making individuals the best that they could be and preparing them for the future. And that's one of the things I always admired when I saw you teach and coach. And I'm glad you said it, because if people don't know, this is what Pat's all about. He's not lying here. This is the truth. This is what he lived.
Well, thank you for that. And that's probably why I like practice so much, because it was a fun time with the kids. Games, different experience games. Yeah. The time at practice and in the classroom where we just had fun, being ourselves, was the best. And that's what you miss. That's what I miss the most as well.
We ask this question a lot, and it deals with failure, and just how do you deal with failure? I mean, we always fail all the time. We obviously should learn from failure, but just you specifically, how do you teach failure to the kids? How do you overcome failure?
Well, first you have to define it, right? First you have to define what is failure. For the kid in class, the student you have in class, failure might be getting a B for some kids. It might be making it to class for other kids. So you have to help them define what it is. And then the flip of that is define success. And if you're focused on success for the individual, I think you're going to see growth in every student and every athlete. But the minute you start talking about overall failure and can't move to success, I think that gets in the way.
Well said. I think that's the best answer we've had, Tosh, to that question.
Yeah, I think so.
Defining failure for individual kids is hard.
It
takes a lot of work.
Yes, it does.
Joe, I don't know if you have kids, but I know Tosh does. Working through that with your own children is quite a task. And now I've got grandchildren, and working through that with grandchildren. And defining failure is best done by defining success.
I'm still trying to work it out just myself.
Yeah, well, me too. I can talk a good game.
That's right. Yeah. BS, yeah. I can at least do that. So that gets you through some things. Speaking of that, how is retirement for you?
Good. We take care of parents. We lost my mother-in-law just a couple weekends last weekend.
Sorry to hear that.
So we were taking care of her, and take care of my dad, and we take care of grandkids. And then I am a suicide prevention trainer for rural schools west of the Fox Cities.
Wow. Okay. That's a full plate. How do you like being a grandpa?
Oh man, that is the best. They come over and visit, make a mess at my house. They go home, I clean it up, and I can go to bed.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Spoil them rotten is what I do.
So I'll go back a little bit to high school for you, playing football in high school. Were you a tight end in high school as well, or did you switch positions?
I was one of those two-way guys. Again, something you don't see in sports anymore.
There you go.
In football.
Exactly.
Yeah, I played linebacker on defense, and I was a tight end on offense. I take pride that the year that I was a senior, Appleton East, that was their first ever conference championship.
Okay.
Nobody scored on them except Appleton West and Menasha. We scored 2 touchdowns on them. So
nice.
We take a lot of pride in that.
Were you at? Where did Menasha play in your day? Was Calder there? Okay.
Yep, it was Calder. You bet.
Yeah, that's a great stadium. One of my favorite high school stadiums.
It is a great place.
And how was the recruitment process? I mean, was Lawrence always the school you knew you were going to go to, or did you have other schools courting you?
Yeah, almost all the state schools.
Okay.
Yeah, and Lawrence. But, having had the experience with Ron and the Fox Valley Association coaches at that time, I knew Lawrence was where I wanted to go. And I knew that the piece of paper, that degree I would get at the end, would take me further than other places.
Yeah. And, obviously Lawrence is a great academic school. And that was probably one of the problems we had as recruiting. Some of our, let's just say baseball players have some of the lower grade point averages on campus. But it is a great school. I have my teaching license from Lawrence as well. And it is, we've talked to Joe Vandenacker. We've talked to their new lacrosse coach, Mikey Zadraga. And it really is a gem of the Fox cities. And I don't think people realize exactly what we have here in Appleton with Lawrence University.
Well, I would agree with that 100%. And the new president is doing a great job shaping the focus and spending money where money should and needs to be spent.
Right.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I always wanted to get your take, spending 27 years in the FVA. I've reffed in it for a number of years. I always loved Friday nights in the FVA. There's really no better football conferences there in the state than the FVA or whatever they call it year in and year out, but I always call it the FVA.
Yeah, I'm biased. I would agree with you. The competitive level is incredible. There are really no bye weeks.
Right.
There are no bye weeks where you get a team that you can beat. At least, early in my career, that was the case. I think it's changed a little bit now, but I think the WIA is trying to address some of that, right or wrong. I'm glad I'm out of those politics.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of politics in the WIAA, but yeah, it's a tough. You're right. You've seen sort of the rise of the Kimberleys and that it kind of changed the landscape a little bit, but the crowds, the schools, the fields, just the playing surfaces too in your time, going from the grass and the mud to just about everybody now. So I think everybody might be on turf now, and the lights are so much better now. It's the facilities. It's incredible what's happened over the last 2 decades.
It is incredible, and that's the only thing you can say. If you roll back the clock again, Ron Roberts' kids went to Appleton East. Now the light poles at Appleton East were from the Met Stadium where the Twins played up in Minneapolis. Ron was the guy that made that happen. When they were tearing down Metropolitan Stadium, Ron finagled to get those light poles from Metropolitan Stadium to Appleton East to Pickett Field so we could have a lighted football game.
I never knew that. That's a fantastic story. I love that.
Well, when you go out there, they've only replaced 2 of the 4 lights. The ones on the visitor side are the old wood ones that Ron got.
And that was at the old Minnesota Metropolitan Stadium.
Yes,
wow.
Sir. That's where he got them from.
Rod Carew would have played back there, right?
Hey, I when I was a kid, we lived in Bloomington, Minnesota for a while too. We used to sneak into those games.
Oh, yeah.
And see Harmon Killebrew and Rod Carew.
Sure.
Burt Blyleven.
All
those guys that ended up with the Yankees. Messerschmitt. All those guys. Right?
Some things never change.
No, because the Twins wouldn't pay anybody.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Still the same way with the Brewers and the Twins, right?
Yeah.
So would you watch
market teams?
The Vikings played there as well, right? In that stadium?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And right next door was where the North Stars played.
Okay. Yep. Sure. Yeah.
Now it's the Mall of America.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
What's your take on Bud Grant? I mean, you would have remembered him, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, a heck of a coach.
Yeah.
I just read that they still have his office at their practice facility. They have left his office alone so that Bud Grant They still have his office, even though Bud's not around anymore, and nobody's in it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, Fran Tarkington. That's one of my first memories. He was great.
He was really good.
I want to talk a little bit about, you mentioned this before. I believe the organization you're working with is Sources of Strength.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about that. I know a lot with being a teacher, and tell us maybe why you went from retirement to working with that as well.
Well, it's an upstream prevention model, giving kids tools to use when they have thoughts of suicide or suicidal ideation. So it provides, it gives a student more things within themselves that they can use when they're struggling. And the reason I ended up doing it was I was recruited by a local hospital. Theta Care recruited me. And I don't know why they recruited me, but they recruited me. And I thought it was a good fit for what I believed, and a great role I could play in retirement, to still stay connected to kids.
And as we know, I mean, I don't know how I would grow up in the day and age we have now with social media and all the different pressures that are put on kids. And, in some ways, it would be nice just to let kids be kids again. So they could have that fun and not have to worry about some of this stuff. But that organization, and I know your work is incredible with that. And they do a great job when done right.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. And isn't that what we've been talking about the whole time? Really is about letting kids be kids and making the game for kids and the games for kids and encouraging those kids. So, yeah, it's kind of an extension of what I've done. And it is a great organization, and they're doing great things.
Pat, can I ask you, you mentioned, so you're I don't know the official title, but you take the call, a suicide operator. So when somebody's in need in that situation, they're talking to you. You're
No, I actually go into middle schools and high schools with another gal.
Okay.
And we train students and staff on what to do when they have thoughts of suicidal ideation or suicide.
Sure.
And then give them the tools they can use down the road to help other students who they know are struggling. So I don't think I could handle being on the calls. That emotional connection.
I couldn't either.
I don't think that's for me.
Yeah, I don't know who that's for. It takes a very special person to do that. But even the work you're doing is just incredible. And kind of what Tosh was saying, there has been it seems like at least an uptick in suicide, maybe directly related to social media. I'm not sure, but it just seems different than when we grew up.
Yeah, much different. And where the stressors come from and the bullying comes from, I don't know. It's scary.
Yeah.
Scary.
We appreciate the work. It's certainly much needed work for sure.
Absolutely. So I'm going to go back. You in 1997, you got elected into Lawrence's Hall of Fame. You tell us a little bit about that experience and how that was for you.
Well, it was really cool to be inducted into a Hall of Fame. And you play a role when you're there, but when you get done, you don't think much about what that legacy is. Yeah. And I think that was a way for the university to recognize the legacy of those 4 years in the athletic department. And I'm not going to take credit because it was me and it was Scott and it was the O-line and it was an incredible defense and a kid named Graham Satherley who was just incredible back as a safety. I mean, there's so many guys that played a role in this that I think I represent in some respects many of those guys. So me, yep, it was nice. I have a few records, but really it's about the kids that played, all of us that played together to make it happen.
So you guys coming in those 4 years, it had to be a blast. It had to be fun. I mean, it sounds like the group of guys you had all gelled. What was that like just traveling around and playing and, being so successful?
Well, you walked down the field and you knew you're going to win. And that's something that's hard to teach. And once you lose it, it's hard to get it back.
Right.
When I talk to people about those 4 years, the year when I was a freshman, we probably had more talent than any of the other 4 years there. I mean, it was incredible. We lost one game to Milton College, which the next year went defunct because they had Dave Krieg, who ended up playing quarterback for the Seahawks for all that time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So we lost 35-28, I think, in a heck of a football game at Milton. And no question, that was a better team than the one that made the NCAA playoffs. Just had so much more talent.
Back in those days, was there an NFL team that trained at Lawrence back somewhere around that time? Or no?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
Maybe I misremember, because I know they did like Platteville and maybe some of maybe Stevens Point or something like that.
Yeah, I think most of the state schools, River Falls had somebody.
Yeah.
Most of them had, because they had the quality facilities. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Another funny note is when we did get an invitation in that time, only 8 schools were invited in the country, right? 2 from the West region, which was Wisconsin and every state west of the Mississippi. So we were one of the 2. The faculty at Lawrence had a vote to let us go.
Oh, wow.
Are you kidding?
No, honest to God. The faculty got together, convened a meeting. Ron had to go and talk to the faculty about the value of this experience, and then the faculty vote to allow us to compete in the playoffs.
Wow.
We obviously got to go, but was the vote close?
Ron never said.
Yeah.
He was just elated that we got to go.
Well, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
It is crazy. It is crazy.
So then what, 30 some year, several years later, not 30 years later, but the Appleton East Hall of Fame just, a few weeks ago, right? If you got inducted into the Appleton East Hall of Fame, richly deserved there as well. And that had to be exciting as well.
It was. And again, I will say this, till the day I'm gone. It really is about all the coaches and the kids that played during that time span. To credit one guy for something, especially at the high school level, you shouldn't do it. I mean, it's that induction was for every kid that played over the last 33 years at East High School, and every coach who volunteered his time, and every mom who made a pregame or a postgame meal. That was about what we did during that time more than anything.
Yeah.
No question, I appreciate it, but it's about everybody else. It's not about me.
No, I get that. Do you still see any players? Had any players reach out to you, former players? And
yeah, that was the best part about the night of the Hall of Fame, was that quite a few of the kids were there. They had a little reception beforehand,
nice.
And some of the kids came in. And when I went out there, some of the kids have kids who play for Appleton North now, so they were there because that's who we were playing in basketball. So yeah, that was by far and away the best part, was to see those kids who I worked with for those years. That was the best part of it.
Hey, Newsa-Cast listeners, you can find every episode on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Please help us grow by subscribing or sharing the Newsa-Cast with friends, or follow us on Facebook, X, TikTok, or Instagram.
I was thinking back, you've coached some fantastic. I mean, you're going to say all your kids were fantastic that you've coached, but you've had some special players too. Some players that have moved on to the next level in several levels. In fact, I think one of them was just sturgeon spearing with Mr. Marks.
Yep.
And got his first sturgeon. He was a special player. You want to say a little something and maybe a shout out to him?
Sure. Eric was special on a special team. He was, he got a scholarship to Iowa and drafted in the 7th round by the Rams and played in the league for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
Won a Super Bowl with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And he's a great person. And anybody that hangs out with Ryan Marks and is willing to take Ryan out in a jet boat,
oh my gosh, yes,
to get a sturgeon, that he's special. But that team in '94 was one of those special teams. We had lots of kids who made great contributions, and now they're making great contributions to society. I'm sure you remember Dan Jack and Tosh. Do you remember Dan? Yep. Just a great human being, and now playing a huge role in our military and what we do. There are kids who are football players who are now teachers and coaches. They're impacting other kids' lives, which is really, really important.
I think you look back on your years as a coach, I think that's one of the biggest things is when these kids reach out to you and say, hey, this is what I'm doing now. I just want to thank you for everything you did for me. I think that's probably one of the biggest honors you have, even more than being in the Hall of Fames and stuff.
No question. When you get a note in the mail, it's just like when you're teaching, in high school and some student leaves a little card on your desk saying, hey, thanks for helping, or thanks for getting me through this. Those are the things that are more important than a paycheck or a win on a Friday, because that's really what life's all about. I'm waxing poetic here.
I like it.
Yeah.
So after a big win on a Friday night, what was your Friday night like after a game?
Well, there were lots of those big wins, and we would all go out and have a drink or two at Mark's East Side. Shout out to Mark.
Yeah.
He's not there anymore.
Yeah.
He doesn't own it, but
still
he was
good.
a great guy taking care of us.
Yeah. No, it's a good call.
I always took care of us at Mark's East Side. They would keep the bartenders there, depending upon the win or the loss.
Yeah, once in a while.
They would keep those bartenders there late, and we would celebrate or we'd commiserate.
Go get them the next week, right?
That's right.
You look back at those 33 years, you saw a lot of changes taking place. What are some of your fondest memories? And on the other side, what are some frustrations that maybe still stand out in your head a little bit?
Well, I'll start with the frustrations, if we failed to achieve what we wanted to and experience success, to me, that was something I regret. And I run it through my head. As a coach, you probably do it too. As an official, you probably do it too. Think about the plays or the season, and maybe you missed one and regretted that you missed one, or you didn't make the right play call, or maybe you weren't running the right scheme. You didn't break down the defense of the opponent well enough. Those are regrets that allow you or force you to evaluate what you've done and what role you played. So those are the hard regrets. The last 5 years I was at East, we probably should have evolved in a different direction, in terms of scheme, what we were trying to do on offense and defense, because we lacked great athletes, right? So that's one of those things that I didn't read the kids and see what the kids needed from me to help them experience success. And, the wins, there's a lot of them. It's the last game that I coached at East High School that must have been 150 kids that came back, that played for me, that were there, that we walked. At the end of our seasons, we always had the kids walk through a gauntlet. All the seniors would walk through it. All the fans and the kids that played, they would leave the field for the last time walking through. Well, all the alumni came back for me to do that with them.
Nice.
So that's one of those big wins that you think about and experience emotions about. So, those are the two. The regrets, and I'm amazed at how they eat you up. And then the successes you kind of lose track of, but appreciate them when kids highlight them for you. I actually have right here on my desk a playbook that I've saved of what I should have done and didn't do. So it's funny how life is.
It is. That's really interesting what you say about regret. And yeah, thinking about that, it's funny as an official too. I think my most powerful memories are the wrong call, bad call, something. It's not a good call.
Isn't it just amazing? That voice in your head always bends to the negative, and you got to train it to forget the negative and focus on the positive.
Yeah, it's hard to do. I'm still trying to learn that.
Yeah, me too.
Now we have time.
So let's take a little bit of a look back in the classroom as well. I mean, you spent a long time in the classroom, and it can be equally frustrating, and lots of wins as well. What are some of the things you really miss from being in that classroom?
Every day, my mantra was, if I'm having fun, they're having fun. So if I could do something in the classroom so the kids will get a smile on their face or laugh or giggle or just be silly, that would make my day. So that for me is the win, when we lit up. And it's funny, we just went through my mother-in-law passing away. She got pneumonia in the hospital, and they put her on hospice care. And lo and behold, who's the hospice nurse? Well, one of my former students, who says, I'm going to throw this back in your face. Erickson's theory of life. She said, I learned this in your class as she's talking with my wife and I. So, those things are the wins. Those things are the wins. And then those failures are the same thing. Did I connect with the right kid? Didn't I connect with, this is one of the reasons why I ended up with suicide prevention is this had to be, 25 years ago. I got a call from an alum and he said, hey, Ms. Schwanke, I'd like to get together with you to just chat. You got time? And unfortunately at that time, and I don't know what it was, but I said, gosh, I really don't have time this week. Well, lo and behold, by the end of the week, that young man jumped off the College Avenue Bridge. Right. So that's one of those things that just sticks in your head. If I had said, yeah, I'm going to make this time, let's get together, would it have changed it? So that's a regret. And I think that's why I'm doing the sources in some respects. And then the wins are, kids giggling in class and having fun and learning your material.
Yeah, I do take, I think I may have stole that from you, is I tell the kids every single day, I say, we're going to go through this year. I'm going to teach you about science, but I'm not here to teach you about science. And I said, if you're not having fun, then I'm not having fun, and vice versa. You're not going to learn anything if you're not having a good time. So even if this isn't your favorite class, if you still enjoy coming to it, we've created a win, because I'm not here to make you a scientist. I'm here to just give you some skills to succeed in life. And I know that's something that you did, and that's one of those things that's kind of stuck with me as well.
Perfect. Yep. That's all of our teachers should be trained to do that. And I think sometimes we pick teachers for different reasons, and that's not the leading reason. And that should be the reason why they're in education.
What's your take on the cell phone in the classroom?
Oh gosh, I hated it when I was there. And I'm sure it's that much worse now.
Yeah.
I remember they were first made popular, and I'm teaching an AP psych class, and there's a woman in the back of the class, a girl, high school age, senior. She gets a phone call in the middle of class. Her mother's a teacher at an elementary school in town, and she got a phone call from her mother during class. It just blows my mind thinking that. What teacher and parent calls their kids while they're in class? I don't get it. So, and I'm sure it's worse now.
Yeah, unfortunately, if you and I, well, neither of us are we're challenged on the hair side. We'd be pulling it out.
Yeah,
and it's not a good situation.
Well, that's unfortunate, and I don't know if there's a solution or not.
No. Well, if there was a solution, we might not have the sources of strength that we have as well, because a lot of it stems from those phones as well, and the easy accessibility. So
I think you're right.
Yeah. For all your years, coming through everything you've done, football obviously has played a big part. What are some of the takeaways that you've had that football has given you, and also maybe who are some of the people that made you who you are today?
Well, that list is really long. And a few years ago, I won a district award, and I did not speak there because that's just not my MO. But if I could roll back the clock, I would name all those people, right? It certainly is my wife and kids, right? Huge role. All three of my children, 2 girls, went through the football program they managed all the way through. It's my high school coaches. It's a guy named Al Johnson who coached the defense, and Jim Corrigan, who was our head coach. It's the guys at Lawrence, Steve Newman and Ron Roberts. It's all the influences I had from other teachers in the classroom and the principals, a guy named Bob Randa and Dick Farrenholz. Yeah. Tosh, it's you, and it's Sharon Brock, and it's Marksy and Seidel, and it's Al Stoner. I mean, that list is so long. I don't think I could name everybody that's had an influence on me. And for that reason, I'm really a lucky guy. I started my teaching career at Roosevelt, and I was the young guy And all the other staff members had been around for 20 years. And all I had to do was sit there and take it in, and really lucky from that perspective that I had all those positive influences. So, and that's where I'll leave that.
That's
I'm getting emotional over here, guys.
That's a huge lesson that you took it in. I don't know if enough people do that. If you just sit back and take it in, man, that's life lessons right there.
I think as a teacher, when we get frustrated with other teachers, especially young teachers, I think that's because they don't want to just sit back and take it in.
Yeah.
Yep. They think they had all the answers in the world right at the outset. And thank God I didn't think that way.
On the words of Chris Farley, they know jack squat.
That's right. I love it.
Well, do you get out and see any football games anymore, or do you kind of hang back a little bit? Does it still pull on you a little?
In the age of live stream, I watch every FVA game every Friday.
Nice.
Okay.
So I'm going from one game to the other to the other. No question that Appleton East draws my most attention, but I also do some film work for Appleton North. So I'll watch them as well. But then every other game that's on, I'm going back and forth. It drives my wife nuts, I think. But it allows her to pick what's on TV because I'm sitting in there watching all these different football games.
It is incredible now on a Friday night, isn't it? How you can watch every game. Some have announcers. It's really good, actually.
It's really good, and it's why I bought a better computer.
Yeah. I don't blame you. Well, Pat, this was awesome. I mean, it was just great to catch up with you. I mean, talk to a longtime FVA coach. It's just talking football, talking teaching, just talking life. It was a lot of fun and insightful for sure.
Well, thank you for that, and for your dad and his role, and starting and playing the role in Red Smith, and all your officiating. And Tosh, thank you for being a colleague for so many years.
Well, thank you. Thank you for everything that you did for me as well. I appreciate it. It's the lessons, like you said, that I've carried with me, and helps me being a better teacher as well. And just, you have to, you have to sit back and smell the roses a little bit once in a while. So
I'm going to do that before my nasal passages wear out. I don't smell so good. I don't see so good. I don't taste. So, you're getting old. So, yeah, thanks for that, guys. It's been great talking to you. And I hope I didn't spread too much BS.
Oh, my gosh. No, it was awesome.
No, this is great.
Alrighty, Tosh, it is that time again, once again, for the Red Smith Banquet Throwback. Tosh, we are going to go back to 1998, and I think this person's very appropriate for the episode that we had with Pat Schwanke, a longtime high school coach. Well, I can think of no better NFL coach than the person we had here, legendary Mr. Bill Walsh, R.I.P.
This is the guy who, when you talk about West Coast offense, here he is. This is the guy you talk about, right?
It's the start of the coaching tree, right? Mike Holmgren, everybody underneath that. It basically starts with Bill Walsh, godfather of the West Coast offense. I mean, he is the man.
Yeah. I think, along with this episode, you talk about somebody who was a builder of character and a builder of people. And this is what he did as well. I think a lot of his former players will tell you that. So just a great individual.
Yeah, absolutely. So he came to another fantastic Red Smith banquet. Like I said, 1998, we had Sal Bando, Milwaukee Brewer, legendary third baseman, Brewer coach, Bob Cousy. Now remember Bob Cousy?
Yep.
NBA great, just an incredible guy. He was here, and then, of course, Bill Walsh. So a heck of a time we had at the Radisson Paper Valley Hotel that January night in 1998. So sit back and enjoy Bill Walsh.
Red Smith Sports Awards Banquet Throwback.
The Red Smith Award, of course, goes to someone who has made some unique contributions to sport in Wisconsin, and also epitomizes the great values that Red Smith exhibited.
Let's give a Red Smith welcome.
A warm welcome to our speaker, Bill Walsh. Bill?
I am a Packer. I am a cheesehead. I decided in the third quarter of the championship game. Well, after Bob Cousy's remarks, it really is probably as fitting as anything that we talk a little bit about how Mike Holmgren and Ron Wolf have brought the Packers to preeminence in professional sports, the greatest franchise at this time in professional sports. And in a sense, the baton's been passed or grabbed away from the 49ers. And I'm naturally privileged to have associated with Ron, with the Raiders, and of course with Mike Holmgren as sort of a, I guess you'd say, a protege. And Mike Shanahan, of course, who's with the Denver team. But the kinds of things that Bob talked about are the issues and the forces that work on today's professional franchises and certainly the coach. So how could Ron, who put together an assemblage of outstanding players with deft moves, evaluating athletes, contractual negotiations that were miraculous in a sense, to bring together the personnel for Mike and his staff to work with. And then for Mike to deal with today's locker room, which has changed dramatically in just 10 years, but certainly in 20 or 30 years. And the challenge for the coaches, the challenge for the leadership among the squad members is, in a sense, almost insurmountable. Very few can survive it. And Mike has, along with Ron. And so the Packers are at the pinnacle at this point, and naturally I expect that they'll come home with a victory. So let's talk just a little bit about how they had to go about it. Number one, Mike had to develop, as we did with the 49ers, and Mike was a part of it, an atmosphere among the players in which at some point your teachings reflected on their productivity on the field, on their performance. And it takes, in a sense, a matter of conditioning people to think in a very firm and strong sense. So the major task for Mike was to bring a diverse group of people together. Because in the National Football League locker room, as in other professional sports, you have the superstar who's gained national fame, gained national visibility, becomes a spokesman for any number of commercial activities, and you have the role player who might make in salary maybe 1/10 of what the star makes. And yet they're expected to play side by side in a game. And all too often, the role player performs better than the star. But people have established their own territories. You certainly have an ethnic condition. African American, European American athletes must learn to communicate, appreciate each other, overlook certain things, learn to bond and care for each other. In football, because of the stratifying of all the different positions that are played, you have people that get sort of territorial. Our offensive line performed well, but the defensive backs over in the other meeting room failed us. The quarterback let us down. The fullback fumble. You know all the litany of all these things. You have to find a way for people to bridge those gaps. We have in the locker room today people with strong spiritual feelings, others with absolutely none. Some forcing their feelings on others. People from different geographic areas of the country. You have the veteran player who's been a free agent somewhere else and comes to you for the first year. You have a young player in his first year out of Vanderbilt University trying to make the team. All of these people have to be brought together by the head coach and by his staff to develop that bonding that we spoke of. And at the same time, they must function with precision on the field. About 20% of the game of football, American football, is chance. Simple chance. No matter how well you prepare, no matter how proficient you are, there is a chance that things will go against you. The officiating, bless their hearts. Just the shape of the football will do it for you. But all of those conditions can affect or impact your ability to get your job done. So for Mike, how could he bring about this successful process? Number one, leadership. Leadership basically is competence. It's not an approach to the team, not some inspirational remarks that you make just before the game starts that makes a difference, believe me. Because you make your inspirational remarks, and in reality, you feel darn good about it. By the time they get out the tunnel, they have forgotten about it. They're thinking of the other team. So it's not the inspiration. What Mike was able to do was demonstrate continually he was damn good at what he did. He called the plays. He set up the game plan. The players learned to respect and appreciate it. And that's really where leadership is. It's competence and expertise. After that, it's naturally communication. But Mike established the fact that he could do his job better than any other coach. And the players had a standard to set and to follow. The next is learning to communicate, allowing people to interact with each other. In Mike's staff meetings, working with Ron in the personnel department, there's open interaction, interfacing between people. So beyond all of the rhetoric and dialogue and commentary on television, there's a science, there's an art form in developing among people a willingness and the ability to communicate with each other under stress. For us, in my final years of coaching, I came to the same general conclusion, the fact that each player is an extension of his teammate, and who is then, I suppose, an extension of his coach. But let's put the coaching aside, the players. In football, and I'm sure in baseball and basketball, all sports, these men play for each other, just as those flyers did over Europe and our infantrymen did in Vietnam. They play for each other. When our offensive unit was on the field, they were playing for their defensive teammates who were standing on the sideline watching them perform, and vice versa. They played for each other, so that when Fred Quillen snapped the ball, he was an extension of Joe Montana, who took it. And when Joe took 5 disciplined steps and threw the ball to Dwight Clark, he was an extension of Keith Fawnhurst, who was blocking for him. But he was an extension of Randy Cross, who was an extension of Ronnie Lott and Carlton Williamson on the sideline. We were all connected, and we felt it. We felt that connection. And in a sense, that's the bottom line. That's the epitome of competition. Until you reach that, or reach a form of it, you're really not fully mobilized. So those are some thoughts for you. How about the game? All right? For Denver to win, Elway is going to have to complete. Let's keep this all in the room, of course. For Denver to win, Elway will have to complete 25 passes out of maybe 35. He's going to have to make a number of third down completions. He's going to have to run with the ball at least 4 or 5 times to make the first down himself. And he's going to have a career day. But if Elway thinks for a second he's going to elevate his game because it's the Super Bowl, he'll self-destruct, which he did in the last Super Bowl against the 49ers, if some of you may remember. He had a terrible day. So John must understand that going into the game. He's got to stay within his own game, but he's got to be precise and make clear-cut decisions or run with the football. The Denver running game has got to show up in the second half. In the NFL, the running game in the first half has to be good fortune, because until the other team tires somewhat, you can't run the football in the NFL, just as the Green Bay did against the 49ers in the second half 2 weeks ago. So the Denver running game is going to have to show up. But for Denver to win, Green Bay has to make some mistakes. Brett Favre will have to come up with, which will not happen, I guarantee it, but he would have to come up with one of those zany plays that once in a while he's capable of. We all have seen him. That last second pass laying on your back to somebody. That would have to happen to keep Denver in the football game. For Green Bay to win is for Mike and his staff and that team to play as a unit they have been doing all year. To be precise, to be able to communicate when necessary in clear, concise language, to interact and interface with each other during the game and on the sideline, and to play up to their full potential with their skills that Mike and them have developed, and stay within their system of football. If that's the case, 31-21 should be a great game. I would like to congratulate all of the winners tonight, because having represented Stanford University, I directly connect with achievement off the field and on the field, off the court, on the court, because that's the complete person. We have too many lost souls who are former athletes. I don't see that many in the room tonight, fewer skulking outside there maybe, but very few, especially in this community. My point is, we at Stanford were the best athletic program really in the nation, winning more NCAA championships than any other school by far. Blend academic achievement, community achievement, social achievement with athletic achievement, and win championships. And it can be done. There's a terrible flaw in our intercollegiate athletic scene, we all know, for the non-student to somehow be participating on the field, and for the media to glorify those particular people. So for you who have won these achievement awards tonight, congratulations. And for everyone at the head table, especially my two friends here who are just incredible people, what a pleasure and an honor to be around them or associate with them and with you. Thanks for having me.
Well, already, Tosh, another great throwback to the legendary Bill Walsh. I love these throwbacks more and more. They're so, like we said a couple of weeks ago, it's actually the first time that I listened to them when we release them on Thursday. So it's really cool to hear them. So I hope you guys enjoyed them. And Tosh, what do you say? Let's end the show like we usually do with a little F&F, huh?
Sounds good.
All right. So what are you forgetting, Tosh, in your world? What's forgotten?
We're in March. Temperatures are warming up. So in Wisconsin, this is officially known as pothole season.
Oh, yeah.
And the roads kind of get a little beat up this time of year, and you have to kind of, do your best to navigate the obstacle course that we call Wisconsin roads, and make sure you don't slam into one of those potholes and damage a tire.
Tosh, I tell you, as a biker, potholes hit different on a bike.
Flipping over the handlebars?
Not yet, but a couple of good jars to the back where you let out the good old, you can feel that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? It is that time. And, it's nothing, it's just nature. You get that thawing and freezing and, that rock just breaking apart. I mean, it's just something that we have to deal with in this part of the country. And, people in other parts of the Midwest and the Northeast and, wherever it gets cold and warm, they have to deal with the same thing. So,
yeah, it's tough. It's an easy thing to get mad at, but the street
Absolutely.
department and they
do their best.
They really do. I mean, you're right. It's just tough circumstances, the freezing and thawing and over. It's not made for roads.
No, it's not. Well, Joe, what's your forgotten today?
Well, Tosh, this needs to be forgotten. Unfortunately, it is not forgotten, but Tosh, I got an issue, Tosh. I'm addicted to these Reese's eggs. They need to be forgotten. I am full-blown addicted to them. It's legit getting out of hand. And
well, I will have to say I can't agree with you on this one because they are. I would eat those all year. Like Jason Kelsey. That's the number one chocolate to peanut butter ratio of those eggs.
Oh,
and you can't stop eating them. And you know what? I'm not even going to try. I'm just going to. So,
Tosh,
I have to disagree with you, man.
Oh, well, this is how out of hand. I shouldn't even be admitting this, but the other day, I was at a CVS and walked by the end cap, and they've got the eggs on sale for whatever, $3.99. I bought a package. I didn't even get out of the parking lot. The whole entire package was gone. And I just sat there and popped them like just kid in a candy store, just popping eggs. And it's got to stop, Tosh. It's got to stop, and I have no willpower. No willpower at all. So,
you can keep biking and keep working out and keep walking your routes. And you can eat as many as you want.
That's what I keep telling myself, but I'm almost to the point where I've got too many now eggs going in, and I don't know, I'm going to have to bike to Green Bay or something tomorrow. I'm not really sure, but it's got to be forgotten. Anyway, Tosh, I'll deal with the forgetting and forgotten on my end, but what are you never forgetting? What's never forgotten in your world?
Well, this comes out on Thursday, March 14th, and I'm going to do a shameless plug here, and I am never forgetting my wife's birthday.
Oh,
so
yes.
Happy birthday, Melissa.
Happy birthday.
We love you. We're glad you're here, and we appreciate everything that you do to hold this family together because she is definitely the glue that holds it together. So, I am never forgetting my wife's birthday, March 14th.
Well done. Yes. Happy birthday, Melissa. That's awesome. Just a number. Just a number.
Just a number. So how about you, Joe?
Well, Tosh, this one hit me hard. This actually hit me now 3 times. For some reason, I have food on my mind. I mean, we're going to have to go eat after this. But it's the powerful smell of bacon. And it hit me again yesterday. I don't know who it was, but I was walking up to a house to deliver mail, and 20 yards from the house, you just get engulfed with the smell of bacon. It was absolutely incredible. It was just powerful. And that happened to me about 3 different times now in the last 2 or 3 weeks where people have been cooking bacon, and son of a gun, does that smell good.
Yeah, there's no denying that. I mean, whenever bacon's being cooked, that's number one thing, man.
Oh. Reese's peanut butter, eggs, and bacon, Tosh. Put both of those in your mouth at the same time and call me dead.
There you go. Maybe we got a new pitch to the Reese's company.
There we go.
Bacon, peanut butter, eggs.
Oh, that sounds pretty good. I'm going to go try that next, Tosh. What do you say? We get the heck out of here and stuff our mouth with unhealthy food.
There you go. Sounds good.
All right. Well, we made it through another episode, Tosh. It's always a hoot, that's for sure. So till next week.
Thank you for listening to another great episode of the Newsa-Cast. We'd really appreciate it if you hit up our social pages, subscribe, like, follow, and don't be afraid to engage. Head over to our YouTube channel to get exclusive content like the full interviews and speeches from the past Red Smith banquets.
Thanks for listening to the Newsa-Cast. We really appreciate your support. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and tell a friend. A huge thank you to Diggstown for all the music in today's episode. Catch a gig or find them on Spotify. Help us grow by subscribing wherever you get your pods or sharing the Newsa-Cast. Follow us on Facebook, X, TikTok, or Instagram. One of the best ways to help us grow is to leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Northeastern Wisconsin Sports Advancement is a 501c3 organization. Our mission is to raise money, provide support, and bring greater awareness for youth sports organizations in Northeast Wisconsin. We do this primarily through the Red Smith Sports Award Banquet and the Newsa-Cast. Each year, we give back to the community through 3 initiatives: the Every Kid Plays Grant, the Gives Back Initiative, and scholarships to student athletes.